It is our final segment this morning with Glenn Cranfield, President and CEO of the Nashville Rescue Mission. You know, a lot of things have changed, certainly over just the past 2 years, especially the last, 12 to 18 months with COVID. I know there was a period of time there as you addressed some of these individuals that don't have access to a lot of medical care and the vaccines. Now I want to ask you about that, but you moved several of them who had issues to the fairgrounds in cooperation with the city, separate location to try to isolate them from others at the mission.
That's right, Nick. And when I remember the very first situation that we had, which was, I think, March of 2020, I remember the health department coming down and testing the entire shelter. And so at that time, you know, we didn't know as much about COVID as we do now. I'm not sure how much we know about it, but it was brand new to us. And we had 104 people in the men's shelter that tested positive.
Okay.
And so we kind of brought them all into the outside courtyard area, and then to tell them that they tested positive, and to see the look on their face and to see the fear that they had, the comfort, you know, just the overwhelming information, you know, they just found out they tested positive was heartbreaking to me. And I remember sitting there and I'm tearing up, you know, and guys are coming up to me saying, "What does this mean? I mean, does this mean, is this like a death sentence to me?"
Were any of them really sick yet?
None.
Did any of them get really sick, to your knowledge?
We only had, over the course of so far, we've only had one really that's been hospitalized.
Okay.
But we've not had any that's been, that have passed away or so forth. And so we're grateful for that. But just the fear of that. And I'm so grateful to the city and Mayor Cooper. We're opening up the fairgrounds.
I remember that.
And so we took all of those that tested positive and took them to the fairgrounds in isolation and quarantine. And then over the next 18 months, we were able to take 25 or 50, just about each and every month, over to the fairgrounds for quarantining, isolation, and so forth. And they did a great job at the fairgrounds of caring for them there, and then bring them back to the mission once the isolation period and quarantine time was over.
Well, how does it work with vaccinations now when people come? You're vaccinated, right?
Yes.
And I assume most of your staff, you know, have gone and gotten vaccinated. Is there a requirement to get into the mission now that you agree to get vaccinated? Or if you're not, then is it still masks everywhere?
It is masks everywhere, and it's not required that you receive vaccination to come to the mission, but we strongly encourage you to do so. And we provide that opportunity with the Metro Health Department many times. And so they come down, they open up. In fact, they were just there this week opening up and vaccinating anyone that needed that. And so we encourage that. The large majority of the homeless population that we serve are vaccinated.
They are. Well, that's just got to be a public education. Because I would imagine many of them would like to, but either, you know, they're out of the loop. And they don't know. And so that's education for them?
It is education. We put up flyers. We have town meetings. We express to them. We talk about our own selves being vaccinated, you know. So there's a lot of fear sometimes, especially when you're dealing with mental health issues. There's conspiracy thoughts and fears and so forth about the vaccine. So we're able to tell them, look, you know, we're vaccinated. We're doing fine. We encourage you to do so. And it'll help you not only here at the mission, but Room in the Inn and other places that you may go seeking help. It will provide you with that sense of protection.
That's great. You know, this time of year now, all of a sudden those commercials with Martin start running.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen some of those, but Martin, it was 2 or 3 years ago, and it's, you know, I'll let you tell his story a bit, but he was pushing a shopping cart, and he starts singing, and he ends up at the mission. And we should say Martin, rest his soul, has passed away since. But tell a little bit about that, because they continue to air, and they are really well done. And I think it does a wonderful job getting the word out about the mission.
Well, we started this, like you said, about 3 years ago. And we're looking for somebody that would be like a middle-aged man and had some ability to sing. And so Martin had just built up a good relationship with the case managers. He was actually in the shelter at the time.
Okay.
And so we approached him and just kind of told him what we're trying to do. And I remember his attitude was, of course, he was a background singer.
So he had a history of singing.
He had a history of music in Nashville, and he had come down with Meniere's disease, and unfortunate for all that. But I remember him looking at me and saying, if I can help anybody else, then I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah.
And so he sat there. We did several shots, for all of that, and he was in the men's guest area, sitting on one of the bunk beds, and it's one of the versions of the spot that just grabs my heart, because when he was sitting on the bunk bed, then he was actually singing the last part of that song, "I'll Be Home for Christmas, If Only in My Dreams," and when he got to "If Only in My Dreams," he broke up, and it just, and that's when he said, and if I can help anybody, if anything that I can do here can help anybody, then I'll do anything I can to help that. And so, we, as you're saying, now every Christmas season,
they're running now
to honor him in his heart, to help the hurting, the poor, and the homeless. We show that every single year.
And he is helping people.
Yes.
Exactly what he said he wanted to do, he is doing.
I've had people come up to me and say, was that an actor?
Right. I asked you that. I remember when they first came out, when you came on 3 years ago, and I said, well, that's a really good commercial. Where'd you find that actor? And you go, no, this is a real deal, Nick.
Right, yeah.
Which makes it all the more special. Yeah. This is someone for real, and he was singing from the heart. But you'll see it on TV, and he's it's just raising the awareness then. So people see that ad, and maybe, hearing us talk this morning, want to help. Again, it's not just the holidays, but what are the needs pretty much year-round? And what about volunteer opportunities? I know maybe some of them have scaled back a bit because of COVID, but maybe it's kicking back up. You have some wonderful volunteers that I've met over the years that are regulars.
Right.
That are regular. Because, again, I go there for Thanksgiving, but there are people that are there helping to feed. Organizations will show up. We'll come on Tuesday and we'll work, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a meal since I've been here in 10 years that we haven't had volunteer help and support served. And it's incredible because people want to give, they want to help, and they want to do something that makes a difference. I tell at a volunteer celebration that we have every April, I said, you folks are mad. You're making a difference. It's an acronym. You're making a difference, and they really are. They're making a difference. It's impossible for Nashville Rescue Mission to do what we do without the help and the assistance of our volunteers. Right. Certainly our donors, but also the volunteers. They help us every single day. There are over 30,000 volunteer hours logged every year at Nashville Rescue Mission. And so the people come and they help and they assist in meaningful things, very meaningful, helping serve a meal, helping prepare a meal, helping sort in the warehouse. There's all kinds of things. We have tutors for our people that are on the program. Just sitting down and talking with somebody and helping us in that area.
So these can be individuals that do it, but I mean, I guess what I've heard too is that if someone's watching now, a church could call you and say, listen, we have a congregation, a club within this church that has 25 people, and we would like to offer us up to come. And then you'd get on a schedule, and you guys could say, well, we could use you to help us serve meals. Is it breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So what would you typically do with a case like that if an organization called you and said, hey, we've got a bunch of folks that want to do this. Can you give us what days or how do we help? We have an
incredible volunteer department.
Okay.
And so my first direction to them would be to get on the NashvilleRescueMission.org website, click on the volunteer tab, and right there listed up to date all the different volunteer opportunities that are needed and necessary. And so they can look at those and say, hey, we can help out in here. But beyond that, they can call and speak to a volunteer manager, volunteer department director, and find out exactly custom made for them what volunteer opportunities there are.
Okay, and that's great then. And I know there's a lot that do that. What about foodstuffs? You talk about how many donations you get, but if someone wants to, do you have people sometimes just dropping in with a bag full of canned goods?
Yes.
Just out of the blue, say, hey, this is the mission. I saw you. I was driving by. I went by the Kroger, and here's a bag of canned goods.
We do. We accept that every day with a big smile on our face, because really, that's exactly how we're able to sustain the meal service that we do every single day. Bottled water, canned goods.
Yeah.
You know, here's some extra things I brought from my pantry, or I brought from Kroger or Publix, and just want to give that. And all of that is necessary and used every single day.
You know what's interesting? We just have 3 minutes left, but where you're located over there in Lafayette, that used to be a Sears.
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Well, as you well know, that area has changed. And you are now on a significantly more valuable piece of property than it was when you moved in.
Yes.
I mean, gosh, right next to you is the, what's that, the wine?
The winery.
Winery, yeah.
Right.
And then my favorite hot dog place, Hot Diggity Dog, closed down, but there's something else in there now. There's a taco place, which I'm sure is good. But you guys are in a really high dollar area now, in a way.
That's right.
And it continues to build around you. It suits your needs. Would there ever be a situation where you would consider, moving that location?
That's a great question, because we exist where we are, and that's where the need is, downtown. And there have been other cities that have experimented with that, and so we need to learn from their experimentation. They've moved the services out of the downtown area thinking that the homeless or the poor would follow, and that just didn't happen.
That's the great point you make. You're not staying there just because, we like being, it makes sense. That's the homeless issue is in the downtown area predominantly there, right?
People, when they're homeless, they gravitate to the downtown area because there's so many things there for them, with panhandling, with empty garages at night to sleep in.
And where was the mission before you guys moved there? I know that was...
it was on McGavick.
McGavick, okay, yeah, because I'm telling you this now. If you're still there and looking to move here now to that location, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
It worked out for you guys.
That's right.
You're in a great location, I think, and it's an area that you'll stay there, and it's really well ran and all of that. But it is in a very, very lucrative, and that piece of property is worth a fortune.
It is. It is. And there have been people. You mentioned that old Sears building.
Yeah.
There have been people that walk in and say the escalator used to be right here, or I walked in the door and I can still smell the popcorn.
Yeah. See, I mean, that's what it was. People who've been around that long. Well, listen, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
As always, it's a pleasure. And, as always, anything we can do to help throughout the year, too. We'll promote for you different events. But we always, put it out there when you've got the cold weather situation. And
thank you.
At the holidays, we'll always be there. But I will always, and I pick and choose my charitable giving. And the mission is always a part of that.
Great.
And it
Thank
always
you
will
so
be.
much.
Going back with you, going back to Carl Reasoner. I mean, it's always going to be high on my list.
Thank you.
Because you help an awful lot of people. Thanks again. Have a happy holiday.
You too.
All right, folks, take a break. Be back with a programming note right after this.